Romeo is the star quarterback at, I forget what the team's called, but basically they keep saying Roll Tide, so I think that's somewhere in Alabama. Don't at me. I only know football Taylor's version. I don't know football. Howdy people, it's Julie here. I, like all of America, am obsessed with the fact that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are together. I have not fangirled like that since I was a tween, since Tumblr was a thing. Something about this pairing just really does it for me. It's giving me major book talk vibes, and so I thought I would help some girlies out by giving you guys some football recommendations, because after watching that, all I want is to read football romances. And so we're gonna talk about some of my favorites. So the first book that I'm gonna talk about is Sweet Home by Tilly Cole. I think that this one gives me the most Taylor and Travis vibes just because it is very much centered around the game of football. Star quarterback is Romeo Prince. His love interest is Molly Juliet. It's also very centralized around like Shakespeare themes, Romeo and Juliet vibes, but on a more smuttier scale. Romeo is the star quarterback at, I forget what the team's called, but basically they keep saying Roll Tide, so I think that's somewhere in Alabama. Don't at me. I only know football Taylor's version. I don't know football. I do know that he is the star quarterback. He's very much known as a player, and he runs into Molly Juliet because she's the TA from one of his classes. She's also a genius. She has chosen to dedicate her life towards philosophy, religion, all that kind of stuff. She also goes to one of his games and he accidentally hits her with a football. He goes to check on her and he kisses her, and ever since then his game has been perfect. So they get together, and every time that they go and play a game, they have this ritual that the entire stadium watches them do their pregame ritual, and he ends up doing really well. They do have a darker side to it because Molly lost her mother to childbirth, and then her father committed suicide because he could not live without her mom. She threw herself into academics because of that. And additionally, Romeo is kind of in the same boat where like he has his parents, but they don't treat him very well. And so he's very much grasping onto football to sort of save him from that household and to make something of himself. And he's good enough to hopefully get to the NFL. What really drew me to this story, it's not like just a cliche football romance. It is also a little bit darker than I would say the normal romance that I read, but I particularly like it because I think that adds some depth into the seriousness of their relationship and the fact that these two people who are so different end up getting together. That book I think is top of the list for the vibes that I'm looking for, and I recommend it to you guys as well. The next book that I recommend that's a football romance is To Professor with Love by Linda Cage. This book is actually part of a whole series, although you can read it as a standalone from the Forbidden Men series, which as a whole is a 5-star series for me. I freaking love that series. But for the sake of this video, I recommend book number 2, which is To Professor with Love. It's about Aspen and Noel. Noel is the star quarterback, and he is in a class that is taught by Aspen. So he's actually failing her class, and his football coach is like, what the hell? But instead of telling Noel to get his shit together, the athletics department leans on Aspen and is like, you're not teaching him well enough, and he has to be able to play football because he's that good. So Aspen gets a little resentful because she already did not like Noel. Due to things in her past, she has a bias against football players, but because of the pressure that's being put on both of them, they do have to basically have one-on-one sessions to work on his English, which is what she teaches, so that he can write a successful essay about himself that's related to the books in the class. So because of that, she ends up learning more about him and gets endeared to him. When she reads his first essay, guys, she cries. She photocopies the essay just so she could read it over again, and she tells him nothing about it. And he was like, I just poured out my heart and soul to you. You didn't even say anything, because she has this reputation of being very like cold, and that's very much the persona that she reflects at school. Meanwhile, she actually loves the sport of football. She plays fantasy football, secretly went to his games to go like see if he was actually good. She's actually this very cute, romantic person in general, and as he gets to learn more about her, he just gets more endeared to her. It's a professor-student relationship, but also just a football-related romance because it is heavily centered within the story. I freaking love this book, guys. I reread it all the time. I always love when characters are like book lovers. The fact that Aspen threw herself into English and books because of her past not only made it her career, but like her bedroom is filled with romance books. And that was one of the things that Noel clocked about her, was like this woman who's been through so much and doesn't want the world to see her, still truly believes in romance because she has all these books around. That part of the story alone just made me love it so much. Please go check it out if you're looking for like a college age romance and student teacher. I particularly like that trope. If you're into it, I definitely recommend this book. The next book I'm going to recommend is called #Nerd by Cambria Herbert. It is part of a series, but you can read this as a standalone. This is the first book in the series, but honestly, I recommend the whole thing. I love the #Nerd series as well as the spin-off called the #Gear Shark series. It started with #Nerd and it gives me Nelly vibes. Like if you've watched One Tree Hill and you love Haley and Nathan Scott, it gives me those same vibes. So Romeo is the main football player. He's also a quarterback. He's very much prominent on campus. He goes to all these parties and he's actually rushing a fraternity. So part of the fraternity is really corrupt and they dare all of the team members to do crazy things. Romeo wants to do it because they have great connections to the NFL and he believes that they will help him advance in his career. At the same time, he is not doing so well in classes and he needs a tutor. The dean has asked Rimmel, the main character, to tutor Romeo. The fraternity president, upon finding out this situation, says to him, you have to sleep with her and provide proof of it in order to be accepted in the fraternity. And as we get more along to it, like people start to know her on campus. Like she was very much a loner. She kept to herself. She literally had no friends. Because of something that happened in her past, she just was not okay with letting people in. She loves animals, so that's something that you're into. It's definitely a lot of scenes at the vet clinic that she works at, and that's actually where Romeo gets to know her really well. He decides to pursue this at first for nefarious reasons, but then he decides that she's a really good person. Rimmel and Romeo have 3 books centralized around them. They're all football romances. So if you're into found family, I think that's one of the main reasons that I love that series so much as a whole. They truly are the embodiment of found family. They end up being so close to each other that they refer to each other as family and they actually live together. I just love that. I love found family. I'm like a sucker for it. So if you are into that, definitely the book for you. My last all-time 5-star football romance is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. Now, if you guys have stuck around on my channel for a while, you know that I am a die-hard Mariana Zapata fan. I absolutely love all of her books, but if you're looking for something football-centered, Wall of Winnipeg and Me is the perfect read for you. So this is actually the first one that I'm recommending that's not a college-age romance. This is actually someone who was in the NFL. So Aiden Graves is a football player. I believe he's also the first non-quarterback that I'm talking about. Don't know what position he plays. Not at all. He's big. That's all I know. He is this extremely stoic, hard to read, very cold man who has been one of the best defensive players in the NFL. He's originally from Canada and he also has an assistant named Vanessa because he is super rich and doesn't have anyone in his household. He doesn't mess around with relationships. He just doesn't care to be invested in anyone's life besides his own. Football is the love of his life, as Vanessa says. She has just been tired of working for him for the past 5 years without any sort of acknowledgement for the efforts that she has put forth. So she actually quits at the start of the book and is like, I can't do this anymore. About a couple weeks later after she quits, her boss, Aiden, shows up at her apartment and is like, listen, I need you to marry me. I need a visa to stay in the US and I don't want to go through all the legal loopholes that need to be done for me to stay here. I just want to get married and have it done with. And he says, in exchange, I will pay for your student loans. She does take him up on the offer, but the deal is that she has to move into his house to make it look as real as possible. But because they're in close proximity, she starts to hold him to a standard that's above what she used to accept. So before, she just kind of like was very nice to him and very accepting of the way that he was, but because they're in this relationship now, she does hold him more accountable, and because of that, he does seem to be more responsive to her, and they try to navigate this marriage of convenience, this fake dating. I love those tropes. It's not for everybody, but I personally love marriage of convenience and fake dating. This is like quintessential I hate everyone but you, grumpy sunshine. Mariana Zapata does slow burn to the max. Her books are ginormous for a good reason, for a good cause. You get the slowest and slowest of burns, and you see Aiden defrost over time because of Vanessa, and it is so rewarding and gratifying. He's still hard, but he still shows that he cares in different ways. I feel like they just took really good care of each other. So those were my 5-star football reads. I know there were only 4 of them, but I'm a really tough critic when it comes to giving out 5 stars. I really just wanted to give you guys the tops that would give you the most Travis and Taylor Swift vibes. If you have any specifically that are like your top tier 5-star that I did not talk about, please let me know, because I am on the look now for specifically football romances. I have yet to find one that is exactly Taylor and Travis, where it's like superstar meets football player. So if that exists, please let me know. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Look at our style from the street. Look at our style from the ghetto. This I will never make it big. Me, I tell them say I don't know.
I don't know if you're sensing a theme here, guys, but I really like football, also tutor/student. I just realized that. I was like, huh,